Russian ruble has recently collapsed, losing over 25% of its value in just 3 months. Can Russian currency be saved? Yes, it can be. Will Russian currency be saved? No, it won't be. But why? Because this ruble collapse has been engineered by the Russian government. In today's live stream, I will try to explain what happened to ruble, why it happened, who is responsible, and what happens next. Howdy, everyone. Welcome to Inside Russia. My name is Konstantin, and this is where usual Russia is explained by the unusual Russian. As usual, you will not find BS, propaganda, or lies here, but will find truth, common sense, and logic. And you will find some emotions too, because I'm a human being after all. I'm going to talk about Russian ruble and what has been happening with Russian national currency. It is a very complicated topic. But before I start, I would like to remind you of those who were telling for years that Vladimir Putin outsmarted everyone and Russian economy was circumventing the international sanctions and was doing great. Russian economists, bloggers, reporters, Western officials, don't forget those. If Russian economy were doing so great, then the key interest rate right now would be low. Russian ruble will be gaining value, becoming a very strong currency. Investments would be flowing into Russia. There would be growth of the civic industries and the inflation would be low. Instead, now in Russia, the key interest rate is at all times high and will be growing soon. Ruble has collapsed, losing nearly, more over a quarter of its value fast, and inflation is galloping. There's virtually zero investments in the country. In real life language, it's called a catastrophe. So don't forget of those who were telling you the lies in the previous 2.5 years. Now let's talk about Russian ruble. Saving private ruble. Well, Private Ryan was saved, as we know from the movie. Will private ruble be saved? I believe not. First, I'd like to attract your attention to one thing. Russian ruble has undergone a disaster. A disaster. It's been devalued greatly. All Russians, companies, people, all alike have lost over 25% of their worth, their savings, their salaries, their pensions in 3 months. It's a disaster of a huge scale. Ruble devalued before. I mean, it's life, you know. And every time it was a storm, the government officials would publicly come out and comment situation. Media was all over it for weeks. People would go angry, blame the government, would be standing up and speaking and so forth. And every time that it was anything but silence. This time is different. The key officials in charge have kept silence. Putin has been keeping silence. Elvira Nabiulina, the head of the central bank, has been keeping silence. A few officials publicly stated that they saw no problem with Russian ruble devaluing whatsoever. For example, Dmitry Peskov, Russian politician, the head of one of our largest political parties, Slutsky, the Minister of Finance, Siluanov, even stated that devalued ruble is actually a good thing for exporters. And people, regular people, they have been keeping silence. When I can understand the officials, I understand their purpose, and they've been following their purpose. I cannot understand regular Russian people keeping silence. They have just lost a quarter of their worth. They've lost so much, and that's against dollar, US dollar. And it seems as if they don't care. So this is a very interesting thing to keep in mind. It cannot be explained in numbers and figures, but it is a very unique situation happening right now. I have not seen anything like this before. Now, let's move on. I remind you what happened first. In the last week, every day, Russian ruble kept losing a few percent of its value. The exchange rate of $1 to Russian ruble was set at first at 96, then 98, then 100, then 101, then 102, then 105, and towards the end of the week it came up all the way to over 109 rubles for $1. Usually, a situation like that doesn't happen. It's a very dangerous situation because quickly devaluing currency creates panic in the markets. The investors flee, the inflation grows. It sets a setting for very long-term economic problems. So the regulator, country's central bank, and Ministry of Finance and the government officials, they usually intercept when currency becomes volatile. First step, they publicly assure market players that they acknowledge situation and they will not let it get out of control. Press conferences, officials giving interviews, making statements. Second step usually is corresponding government agencies stop buying foreign currencies to increase the reserves. So you understand, in Russia, there's a federal regulation called бюджетное правило. If oil exported at the price over $60 per barrel, then currently it is over $60, then a part of a dollar revenue coming from oil companies is used by the central bank and the Ministry of Finance to organizations, to agencies, to buy foreign currencies, including the US dollar, to keep it in the reserves. So, in other ways, when the price of oil is higher than $60 per barrel, they take part of the revenues, export revenues, and they buy US dollars to keep the reserves. They keep beefing up the reserves. And that's how Russia came to the war in such a good financial situation, because they had lots of reserves. You can call it the country's bank account, okay, savings account. So that is usually second step. They stop buying US dollars, foreign currencies, and they decrease demand for foreign currencies. And the third step to stabilize currency is usually to oblige large natural resource exporters to mandatory sell their dollar revenues. Oil, natural gas, ores, metals, uranium exporters receive revenues in dollars, and it's up to them what to do with the revenues. But the central bank if the central bank wants to stabilize currency, it forces large exporters to sell foreign currency revenue to the central bank. Therefore, the central bank increases supply of foreign currency that drives demand for ruble higher, therefore increases its value. Now, folks, please be patient with me. What I'm telling you right now is the very advanced knowledge of the economy. and currency regulation. It's master's degree level of information. You know, you have to get through bachelor's to master's degree to learn this stuff. I'm trying very hard to tell all of this in simple, easy to understand language. If you feel that I'm doing a good job, I'm asking you to please hit the like button right now. I'm really trying to make very complicated things sound simple. Whew. So, when a crisis hits national currency, the very strong tools to stabilize situations are there, and they are to stop buying foreign currencies, therefore creating more foreign currency supply in the market. Therefore, the demand for foreign currencies would fall and stabilize the markets. That's number one. Number two, to make the exporters sell in US dollars to the central bank mandatory, or at least selling a part of the revenue to make the exporters to sell a part of the revenue mandatory. And the third, of course, to talk about it, be transparent. Assure markets, assure market players, assure people that, hey, you're looking at it and you're working very hard to keep things under control. Okay, that's what usually is done. That's how the government agencies back Russian ruble up. Again, this is what this is what happens usually. But this time, it is completely different. The demand for US dollar started growing recently, and more market players started buying dollars, paying rubles. And that happened along with the central bank and the Ministry of Finance also buying dollars more and more. And instead of calming the markets down by making public intentions to stabilize ruble and halting buying dollars, Russian officials stepped aside and watched as ruble was going to hell. And this, what is different this time? They did not interfere. Only when Russian ruble came awfully close to the mark of 110 rubles for $1, the central bank came out with a statement, as it should have been before, and stopped buying currency. And ruble magically stopped losing values. Well, stopped devaluing. It looks like the government waited for 110 rubles for $1. It looks like they were creating this situation artificially. And notice that nothing was done to oblige Russian exporters to sell dollar revenue to the central bank this time. They usually do it, but not this time. On the contrary, the central bank was lowering the requirement to sell dollars over the last few months. First from 80% to 60%, and then from 60% to 40%. The central... Why? One word: devaluation. The Russian government has made a conscious decision to devalue Russian ruble. Russian government currency has been made cheap on purpose. Okay. Right now, Russian government needs two major goals to achieve two major goals. Has two major goals. Number one, to have enough rubles in the federal, dispensable, to continue spending astronomically to support the war in Ukraine. Production and buying Russian people's souls. That's what it needs money for. Production, all those so-called experts were saying that Russian economy was growing tremendously in the recent couple of years. It wasn't entire Russian economy. It's the military-industrial complex was growing because the Russian government obliged it to grow. It forced to add 2 more shifts. Right now, most of companies who are part of the military-industrial complex are working in 3 shifts. Okay, and that needs money. They produce lots of weapons, lots of missiles, lots of bombs, lots of planes, I guess. Things that carry death to Ukraine, and when they are there, they explode and try to kill as many people as possible. That doesn't add anything to Russian economy, but it sucks lots of money out of it. And a Russian man right now earns more than 5 million rubles, that's around $50,000, in the first year if he signs a military contract and sells his soul to go fight in Ukraine and to kill Ukrainians. In case of a person dies, the man who signed the contract dies, is killed at the front lines, his family gets $7 million one-time payment. And if he is injured, he gets up to 2 million rubles. That is a lot of rubles to pay to people. And the government needs supply of rubles to fulfill the obligations and promises. So that's thing number 1. It needs money. And thing number 2, it needs to keep on importing what cannot be produced in Russia. And I'm talking about things that are required at the military-industrial complex. Microchips, drones, rockets, shells, missiles, components. Russia doesn't produce anything. It's very... it's a country of a yesteryear. You know, I've been talking about it. I've told you frequently that not much is produced in Russia. They grow food, yes, but the growers, farmers rely on foreign seeds, foreign fertilizers, foreign drugs, foreign transportation, the trucks and things like that. Other than that, electronics not produced in Russia, microchips not produced in Russia, cars not produced in Russia, airplanes 0 produced in Russia, nothing. So they need to keep on buying abroad what they cannot produce to keep the military stuff supply going. So at this point, Vladimir Putin is out of money. All the savings that had been made before the start of the war are gone now. Russia's savings account, called the Fund of National Welfare, has gone dry. At the same time, a huge number of problems in both civic economy and military-industrial complex, the military economy, a huge number of problems need mucho dineros to keep on going. You know, I'm not even talking about military-industrial complex that is, it's sucking money out of Russia's taxpayers like crazy. But if you look at the civic economy, civic industries, oh boy, you'll see lots of problems. And the problems are usually solved by flooding the industries with government's money that are called federal subsidies. For example, the aviation industry isn't doing well. It's in a huge crisis, and I'm going to be making a live stream about that this coming week. Please keep on tuning in. So it's a huge problem, and it needs to be bailed out in 2025, plus 200 billion rubles. Cha-ching! The car manufacturer AvtoVAZ needs a bailout, plus 200 billion rubles. Cha-ching! A railroad monopoly, RZD, needs a bailout, plus 400 billion rubles. Cha-ching, it's going to come out of the federal budget. I can continue naming who needs bailing out for a long time. Almost every single industry, and definitely large companies owned by the government because they're extremely ineffective, they need bailing out. And this is the result of the international sanctions and the war that Russia has been waging on Ukraine. And that all has created a huge budget deficit. Russia cannot borrow money anymore. Before, if it wasn't for the war, let's say, I don't know, something bad happened to the economy, it would have gone to foreign lenders and borrow money at, long-term loans at very little interest rates. But I cannot do that any longer because no one lends money to Russia. It's illegal in Europe and in the United States. Russia cannot earn money like it used to earn before by selling the bread makers oil and gas. So therefore, it spends way more and it earns way less. And it creates lack of money, deficit. And again, Putin needs money. So what have they decided to do? How they have decided to graciously, very effectively sell this problem? Where did they decide to get money from? Well, before I tell you that, I would like to take this opportunity to thank you again, those of you who have been supporting me in various ways, by watching my videos, by helping me to promote with the YouTube algorithm, by hitting the like buttons, by commenting. I would like to thank those who have sent me emails with wonderful messages of encouragement. Thank you for your words. Thank you for your prayers. Thank you for your love. Thank you for those who have helped me with funds by buying coffees at buymeacoffee.com, by becoming patrons of Inside Russia at patreon.com. Thank you so much. Thanks for PayPal. You have my word. Monetized or not, I'm currently demonetized by Google. I guess Google doesn't like those who stand up against Russian government and supports Ukraine, but that's a different story, So I'm still demonetized. I'm working on remonetizing. There are a couple ideas, but I'm still demonetized. But it doesn't matter because monetized or not, I continue going live every single day, and you have my word. I will keep on doing that because I think what I'm doing is important. So again, thank you very much from the bottom of my heart. So how to solve this problem of running out of rubles? There is an elegant decision. Russian government has decided to devalue Russian ruble. Well, many of us saw it coming. Well, not all, obviously. I saw it coming. I made predictions for this year, for 2024, right in the first days of January. And I'm going to address those predictions in the last day of 2024, see what has come true or not. Well, definitely devaluation was on my list. Okay, so they reached two goals by devaluing ruble. Number one, they instantly created money out of thin air, basically. And that money can be spent to keep supporting the military-industrial complex, to keep the war going. They keep on paying the factories, companies to create drones, bombs, rockets. They keep on paying sign-up bonuses to those who decide to sell their souls to the devil. They keep on paying the salaries of the soldiers who have been on the front lines. Anyway, all of a sudden they have more money to keep on going. For how long? They cannot sustain it. They cannot go for a very long time, but at least for a few months. So that's goal number one. They have created money. And goal number two, they started supporting the big exporters owned by the oligarchs, Putin friends. Those in the recent months, they have started to complain. They were saying that, hey, what's going on? We produce metal, but the supply is there, demand is slow, and we cannot sell it. Because, well, partially it's the sanctions, partially it's the global demand has fallen. Same goes for oil. Gazprom gas, natural gas, has sold increasingly less gas than before. Uranium, ores, gold, all those large companies owned by the oligarchs, and, they're Putin's friends. So Putin has bailed them out. All of a sudden, they earn more money in rubles because the amount of dollars they receive is the same. But then when they exchange to rubles at higher exchange rate, they receive more rubles. But it costs the same for them to actually keep on their production going because they pay salaries in rubles. And in rubles, the price stays the same. They pay the same amount in salaries, okay? So all of a sudden, the oligarchs are feeling so much better. And the goal number three, dollars now are allowed to be taken out of the country and saved outside Russia. Now, this is how it worked before. If you are, let's say, a large steel manufacturing company and then you sell your steel abroad, then someone pays you, I don't know, let's say in Namibia, okay? And then they pay you in dollars. And then you were obliged to take dollars into Russia, to transfer them into Russia, and, sell according to the central bank's procedures. Some part of the revenue you would sell to Russian bank for exchange it for rubles, and you would use rubles to actually keep your company going. And you would keep some dollars, perhaps. You need dollars to buy equipment from abroad and things like that. So now, more dollars are allowed to not be taken to Russia. Central bank says, hey, keep your dollars outside somewhere, in Dubai, in Switzerland. I'm not sure. I think Swiss banks have sanctioned Russian companies. In Singapore, in Thailand, in Malaysia, perhaps in the offshore zones, where your dollars are safe and accessible, because we need dollars to buy things abroad, like microchips, like components, and import and buy them abroad for your dollars and bring them into Russia, because it has become increasingly difficult to make payments from Russia into other countries. For example, China or Turkey, okay? They simply do not take Russian transfers. But if a transfer comes from Dubai, and it's not a Russian company, but a local company, it doesn't matter. It can belong to you 100%, but it comes from a Dubai company, then that's no problem. Okay, and Russian government is doing that right now, allowing money to be kept not in Russia, because most remaining Russian banks who were doing transactions with the West were placed under sanctions in the last 2 weeks. And it has become increasingly difficult to actually take money out of Russia. It was pretty bad before, now it's nearly impossible. That's why companies, big exporters who sell things outside Russia and receive money, they don't take their dollars or, hard currency in Russia. They keep it outside. Therefore, the less and less dollars are available in Russia, and that is driving the demand for dollars higher, and therefore it devalues Russian ruble. There's cost to everything. In economics, such alternative cost is called opportunity cost. Russian government has created itself a hefty amount of rubles. Okay, understood. It can continue spending on its military-industrial complex. It can continue waging the war. I understand that. But it did so at the expense of Russian people and Russian civic companies of the civic industries. The government has reduced the purchasing power of money that the population has by over 25% in 3 months and over 10% in just 1 week. It crushed the purchasing power of Russian ruble. It devalued salaries, savings, pensions for Russian people. This is the result of actions of Vladimir Putin and his government. They lied and stole from Russian people. And I tell you how. For the past few months, they were telling, hey, we are increasing the key interest rate, and we are making it much more profitable for you to keep your money in rubles, on bank deposits. Please bring your money, bring your rubles, and deposit and earn a lot. You can earn 20% now per year in ruble, just keeping your money in the bank accounts. But they knew they were going to devalue ruble. They knew. So those who believed Russian government and brought their money and kept it on the deposits, they have lost way more than they had earned. They believed Russian government again? Well, it's a wrong choice. The devaluation will lead to everything becoming more expensive, including imports, especially imports. If you thought that the inflation in Russia is high already now, wait for 3 weeks and see it skyrocket, because it usually takes a few weeks. There's a lag of few weeks for the results of devaluation of currency to be seen, let's say, at stores. What is at the stores right now was bought a few weeks before, and now things that are bought at this price, 109 or 8 Russian rubles for $1, they're gonna hit the stores in 3 weeks. So folks, wait for 3 weeks. Oh boy, Russian people are in for a huge Christmas present this holiday season. They devalue ruble, and the president and his officials say that Russians shouldn't be afraid of this. All stand up and declare that ruble income is what's important. We heard Dmitry Peskov say it. We heard Slutsky say that. I showed it. I showed you them speaking, in my previous stream. What do Russians need these dollars and euros for? Yeah, you earn on rubles, you spend on rubles, you go to a Russian store, you see the prices in rubles. Why do you care? Folks, I kid you not, that has been the message, the narrative of the Russian media in the last few days. The Russians, stay calm. The holidays are coming. Think of the new year. Think what you're gonna buy for presents for your loved ones, Think of that instead of worrying about dollars and euros. Boy, oh boy. So, what is happening right now? Remember I said that the war between the central bank and the military-industrial complex was declared? Well, I was proved right. they made a decision, they made a deal behind the curtains. And that deal included the central bank, the military-industrial complex, and the oligarchs. Devaluing Russian ruble, step number one. Step number two, increasing the key interest rate. And that benefits the exporters. They earn in rubles more for the same amount of dollars, the oligarchs. And at the same time, it fills the federal budget and keeps the war going. So the central bank and the military-industrial complex will not destroy each other. Yes, they had a conflict, but I think that Vladimir Putin stepped in and they made a deal. Watch they increase the interest rate even higher. Perhaps in a few days from now, perhaps on December 20th as a next scheduled meeting. On the other side, what is happening now? On the other side, they have just finished off businesses and people. I want to make an analogy. Remember what happened to the Titanic when it started sinking violently? It was going down. Before it went down, it kind of went up vertical. And then it broke in half. One part of the ship fell down on the water and started floating, and another that broke off went down like a brick. It sank immediately. But the part that broke off was floating for a few minutes, couple minutes, perhaps a few more minutes, okay? And after that, it started sinking. And this is exactly what happened to Russian economy right now. They did just that. They sacrificed the civic economy and people in Russia to keep the war going. That part of the Titanic that was broken off and is floating right now is the war economy, the military-industrial complex, and those who are employed by the government. There is money for them. They keep on going, but not for long, for a few more months. But now they are saved. And those who have nothing to do with the government, just regular people, businessmen, companies not working, with the government contracts, they're done. They're done because inflation is skyrocketing now. Just give it a couple of weeks. Whatever they buy from abroad, import has gone up in price, and interest rate will go up. So the money supply will become even more scarce for them, and the money will become more expensive. Expect bankruptcies. This is one word I can tell you. Bankruptcies. They're going to skyrocket in 2025. And they will not come from the military-industrial complex part, the war economy. They will come from the civic economy. Bankruptcies. People will go down. Who benefits? Vladimir Putin. He keeps his power for some time more. The military-industrial complex, they keep on getting paid by the government from magic rubles that they just, made out of thin air. The officials, Russian officials, they are keeping their jobs at least for some time. And boy, I can't even imagine the amount of corruption, the level of corruption that is happening right now. All those who benefit from the war, who work for the military-industrial complex, regular people, who companies, suppliers who supply components, who produce something for the war factories, they definitely benefit. I estimate about 10 to 15 million Russian people, the war profiteers, the benefit from the war, and those who are employed by the state, although not all of them. Teachers, the bureaucrats, definitely siloviki, the power agencies. There's enough money for them to, for the government to pay their salaries. Who loses? everyone else, all businesses, not involved with the government, not involved with the war, all companies, again, bankruptcies coming into 2025. Watch bankruptcies skyrocket because companies will have nothing else to do, just cease and exist, stop operations, and most likely go into bankruptcies. Personal bankruptcies, expect many of those. That it will influence commercial banks. The Russian central bank will not bail them out. Bankruptcies of commercial banks, poverty for people. They will eat less. They will live much worse. When will it happen? We shouldn't wait for long. It has started happening already, but we will see economic situation getting extremely worse, much worse in Russia in the first half of 2025, starting January. And then and the effects will be seen the most starting second half of 2025. And then what I think will happen, the blame game will start. Because you see, Putin cannot be held responsible. Putin never makes mistakes. His reputation is spotless because the Tsar is always right. The Tsar is always good. But on one hand, you have the Tsar, who's always right. On the other hand, you have tons of economic chaos going on. You have nothing to eat. The prices are through the roof. The shortages possibly. What the hell is happening? And then the Tsar will start pointing fingers. Oh, the enemies inside of the government. The enemies inside of us. We've seen that happen. Joseph Stalin. He was ruthless to the enemies. We'll see what Putin will do. Well, we have been seeing kind of. A lot of people have been falling out of the windows. And I think that that foliage out of the window will continue. So expect the blame game. Expect the situation getting so much worse. And I think those experts and bloggers and reporters who have been saying, oh, Russian economy is doing great, I think they will shut up. Because, yes, it's really going to be hard to justify their words. Please remember, Russian people have been sacrificed in this past week. A great deal of Russian economy, the civic economy, has been sacrificed. The future of Russia has just been finished off. I think I can even say that it's also been sacrificed. Everything is going according to the plan, indeed. Putin's plan. It's just, at first, we didn't know what his plan was. Now we know. This has been a part of the plan all along. And all those experts, officials, reporters, people, foreigners, experts, who were saying, oh, Russian economy is doing great, they were helping Putin along. Everything is going according to the plan, but the plan has turned out to be out of hell. This has been my message. Thank you so very much. I just want to add one more thing. I have developed a pretty good way for everyone to stay on top of things, all things Russia. You can learn of the changes happening in Russia, and they happen every single day now, and the changes are quite important, quite large, because Russia is feverish. Something interesting, something valuable, important comes every single day. You can follow current news by becoming patron of Inside Russia at patreon.com. Every single day, I select 9 news I make them available to patrons along with my commentaries and analysis. The news I find important myself and I use for my live streams. If you become patron of Inside Russia, it'll keep you informed on everything you wanted to know about Russia, but you didn't know where to ask. So, friends, I hope you liked my message today. Thank you so very much. I'm going to have a series of very interesting streams this upcoming week, so please keep on tuning in. I will see you soon. Carthago delenda est.